who has joined, who you guys are, where you're coming from. We're going to go over what mental health is, to define it and describe it a little bit. And then we're going to talk about mental distress and illness within the Muslim community. And I'll provide you guys with a little bit of research and some resources that you can use for your essays when you guys participate in the competition. And then we'll also go over briefly how to cope with, if we discuss mental distress, what do we do then? How do we cope with it? And lastly, if we have time and if we have any questions, we'll do a quick Q&A. So the expectations, I put these out here so you guys know what to expect from me. And then I'll just share that my expectations from you guys as the audience is to participate. You can keep your cameras off, that's fine with me, but I will ask that there will be certain times I'll ask you to type something in. You could type it into the chat privately to me or to everyone, whatever you're comfortable with. But yes, I would really appreciate some participation. So this can be more of a conversation, inshallah. All right, so we'll start with our check-in. I use this with all ages, but sometimes it's nice to have a visual aid. So what I would like everyone to do is, it's right here on the bottom corner. I want you guys to post your name, what grade level you're in, and then you could just put the number of the GIFs that kind of represent your mood right now. And we can be honest about it. It's kind of early for the weekend, so maybe some of us will be like more sleepier on this side of things. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and start with that. So again, your name, your grade level, and then the number of the GIFs that kind of represent how you are currently feeling. And I'll give you guys like 2-3 minutes for that so I can see, and then we will move on, inshallah. All right, so yes, if you could just put that in the Zoom chat and I'll see. I'll share mine. I think I'm probably like a 12 right now because I'm in a good mood, but I'm definitely not awake enough to be jumping around like up here. Okay. All right. So I see someone shared 10, 11, 14. Okay. Pretty positive mood. 10, 11. Okay. Some on this side. We got someone who's not feeling the best right now. Thank you for being honest and sharing. 8th grade, 12th grade. Okay, a lot of us are on this side of things. All right, we got some over here. Yeah, okay. 13. Okay, wonderful. All right, I'll just wait like 30 more seconds if anyone else wants to share. And one of the reasons I like to start with the mood check is I think it's important to know, for me to know, but also for everyone to kind of check in with themselves and see how you're feeling. It affects how open you are to maybe learning something, or, it's important to be aware of your mood so you can kind of direct the rest of your day accordingly. Okay, someone's feeling a little lazy right now. I hear you, Saturday morning, not easy to be awake. All right, awesome. And thank you guys for participating. All right, so we will move on to the next slide, inshallah. All right, so we're talking about mental health, right? But what is mental health? And so I want you guys to take a second and share, again, you can do it in the chat directly to me, or if you're comfortable, you can share it with everyone. Any words, ideas, or definitions that come up for you when you think of mental health. And we're going to be totally honest. I'm not looking for the right answer here. I just want to know, what does mental health mean to you? What words do you associate with mental health? What comes up? So we'll take probably another 2 minutes just to share out in the chat what that looks like, and I'll read them out, inshallah. Right, and it doesn't just have to be the definition of mental health, also any words that you associate with it. Like, for example, a big one people associate with mental health is like anxiety, right? So yes, any words that come up, let's go ahead and share them. All right, stress or anxiety, yep. Anxiety is like one of the most common mental health issues. A lot of people have anxiety. Okay, psychological health or mind health, illness, identity disorder. Okay. Yeah, so some are, what I'm seeing is like some are kind of disorders that you might have, like anxiety or illness, and then some might be just the more healthy side of it, right? Or just what it is in definition. All right, okay, cancer. So cancer would not be a mental health disorder, but it would definitely impact your mental health. Okay. Feeling worried or scared, absolutely. Those definitely fall into the category of mental health. All right. And you can continue sharing if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide for time. All right, so what is mental health? So a definition, if you Googled it, this is what you would find, right? A person's condition with regard to their emotional and psychological well-being, right? So when we think of our well-being, there's a lot of different parts to it. So for example, we would have our physical well-being. Are we healthy? Are our bodies healthy? Do we get our checkups done? Do we exercise? Things like that. We also have our social well-being. So social well-being would be, do we have friends or family or people we feel connected to? Do we have activities we like to participate in? And then we would have our psychological and emotional well-being, right? How are we feeling? Are we in good moods and feeling good emotions? Are we feeling a lot of bad emotions? All emotions are important. We have to feel all of them, but it's problematic when we're too sad, or we're sad very often and not happy, or we're anxious very often and never get to feel calm, things like that. So mental health is dealing with our emotional and psychological well-being. There's a lot of different things that affect our mental health. So for example, I put a few examples here. Our environment affects our mental health, right? What our home life looks like, what school we go to, do we feel comfortable there? Where we live, the rules of our governments, all of these things can affect our mental health. Even in terms of environment, even things like temperature and comfort level, like do you have are you feeling comfortable in the room you're in when you're starting to study, right? That's going to affect how much you're able to focus, things like that. All right, what else? Our food and drink, how we take care of our bodies, our social circles, like do we have supports, do we have friends we get to hang out with? Our different moods can impact our mental health, how much we sleep or how much rest we get, and then our exercise and physical wellness as well, which I think someone mentioned earlier, things like, cancer can definitely affect our mental health. Alrighty. So mental health is, maybe I'll go back to this for a second, actually. Just like we have physical health, right? We need to do things to keep it, to keep ourselves healthy. So in order to keep our physical health good, we would make sure we don't eat too much junk food, we exercise, we drink enough water, we get enough sleep. And we have certain things we have to put in place to keep ourselves physically healthy. Just like that, we have to kind of put things into place to keep ourselves psychologically and emotionally healthy, right? So it's like it's not something that just happens. It's an active process of kind of making decisions to make ourselves feel a certain way. So with that, we will obviously have bad moods. We're going to be upset sometimes. We're going to feel anger, sadness, anxiety, worry. All these are normal emotions, but it becomes a problem when it's happening too often, right? And that's when we need to seek help. So let's talk a little bit about mental distress. So see, these are some things that might be signs that there are some mental health issues that you're dealing with. And let's just go through these real quickly. So again, any of these things that I'm mentioning, except for the last one, any of these things that I'm mentioning, it's normal to have this once in a while, becomes a problem when you're feeling it a lot, and when it becomes very prevalent. So not being able to concentrate. So if you have like a test and you don't want to study for it, you're procrastinating and you can't concentrate, not the biggest deal. Happens to most of us, definitely happens to me. But when you are not able to concentrate at all, that's when it becomes an issue. Same with feeling sad or down. If you're feeling upset very often, you're not feeling happy, every day you're feeling sad, that's a problem. If it's once in a while, once a week, or once every 2-3 weeks, it's okay. All right, extreme mood changes. So you're like super, super happy. And then 10 minutes later, you're like crying. And then 10 minutes later, you're super energetic. If there's a lot of mood changes, that can also be a sign of mental distress. Excessive fears, worries, or feelings of guilt. So we all have worries and anxiety, and it helps us survive, right? We have to be worried sometimes in order to get things done. And I don't know if some of you might have learned about fight or flight before, but our stress, it helps us survive. So for example, if there's a lion chasing you and you're just chill and you're like, I'm not stressed at all, that's not gonna be a good outcome, right? That's a situation where our body responds with stress to be able to help us out of it. And that's okay. And we have stress with we have a test, we have to study, we're stressed, we get that done. When it becomes overwhelming, you can't deal, it's happening very often, that's kind of when it becomes a problem. Last two here. So withdrawing. So that means like keeping yourself away from friends and family, or you're no longer enjoying things you love. So let's say you love playing soccer and then you're really sad and you hate, you don't even want to play soccer now, or you don't like, you still love painting and drawing and nothing is really making you feel happy. That's a problem. It's a sign of distress. And lastly, suicidal ideation, which means if you ever think of hurting yourself or killing yourself, that is a huge sign of mental distress. And these would all be places where you might need to go and seek some help. In terms of time, someone asked, I think we'll probably be on for maybe 20 more minutes. All right. So let's go. All right. So those are kind of overall what mental health is and what mental distress looks like. But I want to ask you guys about mental health in the Muslim community, because that's related to your topic, right? So I want you guys to answer in the chat. If you want to unmute, you can do that as well. But I want you to think about this for a second and let me know. Do you think mental health issues are more or less prevalent in Muslim communities? So that means, do you think we have more mental health issues in Muslim communities? Do you think we have less than in other communities? We're talking specifically in the United States. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Or do you think it's the same? Or do you think we have none? Like Muslim community doesn't have any? Okay, someone said less. Okay.
I think yes and no.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit?
No or yes, because sometimes just having the suicide thought, it can make you like think more about Jahannam and that you don't want to go there.
Yeah, of course.
You will get that out of your head. And no, because mental health issues can occur to anyone.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Sorry, I can't see who that was, but thank you for sharing. So yeah, you mentioned something really important that, you know, with things like suicide, we have, because of our religion and our faith, right? We have a belief that this is not something that we can do. It has consequences like Jahannam, right? And so with that, that's something, maybe a protective factor. And that means something that kind of helps protect you from mental health issues and illness, right? So with religion can be a protective factor in lots and lots of ways. And there's actually been research that on Muslim communities, that when people find that ease in like salah or like find a community feeling, it actually helps protect them from mental illnesses when they're dealing with stress. However, there is also a lot of these illnesses within the Muslim community too, right? And sometimes we have this idea that if someone is having a mental illness, that means they're not as religious, or they don't have as much iman, that they're not putting their faith in Allah. But really, especially like from my experience, a lot of people will be very religious and can still be impacted by these things because of genetics or you know, just other life circumstances. And so while religion can help us, like our salah, our athkar, things like that can really help us get out of mental illness, and we can use them as a tool. It's sometimes we need to do that with other tools as well. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so if you have this faith in al-qadr, that, you know, everything is determined, then it'll help us. That's definitely true. And like I mentioned, a lot of research on mental health also shows that having spirituality and religion and having like praying and doing dhikr and things like that can actually help us deal with mental illnesses, but not necessarily prevent it, if that makes sense. All right, so most studied less actually. So let's kind of look into this. So what I'm going to share now and go over quickly is actually some research that's been done on mental health in Muslim communities. And I'm sharing a few resources because I think you guys can use these in your essays. They're credible sources that you can use and research-based. So one of them is called the Family and Youth Institute, or they go by the FYI. You can find them on like Instagram. And after I finished with my presentation, I'll put the links in for them as well. So we're just going to quickly look at some of their research. So they have looked specifically at Muslim Americans, and that their reports find that 15 to 20%, 25%, sorry, report anxiety disorders. There's quite a big range here, but a lot of people also report mood disorders, and mood disorders are things like depression, bipolar disorder. Those kind of fall under the category of mood disorders. Over half respond with issues of marriage problems, right? And so while mental health disorders, you know, sound things you might have heard of are like PTSD, anxiety, depression, issues with family are also can impact your mental health, right? And then another thing here actually is bullying. So bullying is very prevalent in Muslim communities, and it has a negative impact on mental health. Um, a lot of times this happens with Muslims kids who are in public schools or in other environments, but it also happens within Islamic schools as well. And so the impacts of it right over here, we can see mental health impacts, depression, anxiety, stress, crying, acting out, and then those suicidal thoughts, right? And it can really impact your physical health and your emotional health. It can get in the way of how you're performing in school and how connected you feel with your peers. And there, if you guys go on their website, I'll share it too. They have research on things like drinking and engaging in haram activities. And unfortunately, a lot of Muslims are engaging in these things during college and high school years. And it's about trying to figure out how we can prevent that, because those are also related to mental health issues, right? All right, let's look through another one here. So another resource that would be really good for you guys, I think, is Dr. Rania Awad. And so she does research with Stanford University. And so her recent research results found that Muslims in America are 2 times more likely to attempt suicide compared to other religious groups. So out of the people she studied, about 2,836 people, they compared Muslims to Catholics who are and Protestants who are Christians, and then Jewish people. And what they found was that Muslims were more likely to have attempted suicide. And kind of thinking of, as Muslims, knowing that in our faith, what the implications of suicide are, the fact that these things are still happening show that we have a mental health issue here, that we have depression and anxiety and things that are leading people to kind of attempt suicide. And so we have to figure out what we can do as a community to help prevent that and create spaces where people feel comfortable and don't kind of end up in these places. All right, before I move on, let me actually go back for a second. Do you guys have any questions right now about, mental health in the Muslim community? I can also speak from my own experience working with so many Muslims. So if you have any questions, I'll just pause for a few seconds if you want to type something up. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and continue. Okay, so I'm going to continue, and then of course there'll be time at the end if you have any questions as well. All right, so we talked about the problem, right? What mental distress looks like, but what do you do with this, right? So there's a lot of things that sometimes might seem very simple and very basic, but research finds that they help a lot in keeping your mental health good. So earlier when I was talking about your physical health and how you need to exercise and eat healthy and do these things to stay physically healthy, these examples are things that will help you stay mentally healthy, okay? So I'll just go over this quickly. So spending time in nature and getting movement, and by movement, I mean like exercise, right? These research shows that this really helps you with endorphins, which are hormones that help you feel happy, okay? Like happy hormones, the simplest way to put it. And so one thing that you can do to help prevent yourself from feeling mental distress or help get rid of some of that stress when it comes up is that you can engage in more of this. So you can spend more time outside, you can exercise, and it will help you feel better mentally as well. And there, with daylight savings, there's actually a lot of people who start to feel more depressed when it's darker outside and we have less daylight. And so it kind of just reinforces this, that if we have that time outside and we exercise, it can make a big impact. All right, I see a question. I'll get to that in a second. All right. Gratitude. So this is a big one. If we think about this as Muslims, this is so important in our lives, right? We're supposed to be actively grateful. We're supposed to be thankful to Allah. We're supposed to reflect on all the things He's given us, right? And we already know this in our religion, but research also backs this up. If you spend time actively being grateful, and by that I mean that, you sit down for a second and you think, okay, what am I grateful for today? I'm grateful for these 3 things. This will help your brain. It kind of alters the way you're thinking and gives you a more positive outlook. And it can help alleviate some of that stress and tension that you might be feeling. So examples of how to do this is literally when you wake up, you can just think, maybe you do your morning adhkar, brush your teeth, whatever. And then you can just think for like 2 minutes. Okay, what are 3 things I'm grateful for today? And that's like a great way to start your day. And it's a really small change you can make that can have a big impact. You can also like have a notebook, like a gratitude journal. I have a gratitude journal that I use, and I would just, anytime I'm starting to feel really stressed, I like write down 3 things or something good that happened, something I'm grateful for. And of course, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know, if you're grateful for me, surely I will give you more. And it's very important for us as Muslims to do this anyway. So it's a great way to kind of keep up your mental health. All right, mindfulness. So mindfulness is like a word I think we might have heard a lot. It's like a buzzword. But does anyone know what mindfulness means, or like what comes to mind when you hear the word mindfulness? Then you can chat it, or you can unmute and share if you have something to share. Awareness, yes, definitely awareness. Um, Actually, that's like the definition of it, being fully aware of whatever is happening in this given moment. Yes, and being present, absolutely. Yeah, you can do it. It can be your peaceful place. For some people, it's like meditating in a peaceful place. But yes, being mindful literally means being fully aware of what you're doing. Now, um, and that means it's non-judgmentally. I'll add that. It's non-judgmentally. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that you're like feeling really sad and really upset. You don't know why, you're just in a bad mood. And then to be mindful in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling really upset. But the judgment piece would be, I wouldn't ask myself, why am I feeling upset? I shouldn't be upset. There's no reason for me to be upset. I would just be non-judgmental and just say, I'm feeling upset and that's how I'm feeling. And I'm just aware of it. I'm not judging myself like, why are you upset? Why aren't you happy right now? Um, okay, not having a lot of free time, being engaged in fun activities, thinking, being mindful. Yes. So being mindful, again, is just being fully engaged in something that you're doing and you're not judging it. So we can do mindfulness in a lot of different ways. For some people, it's like, for me, it's artwork is a big way that I like to be mindful. I like to just paint and just focus on that. And it helps me relax and helps me deal with all my stress a little better. We can do it with adhkar, right? And this is actually something we're taught to do as Muslims. When we're praying salah, or when we're doing adhkar, we're supposed to have khushu, we're supposed to have that focus, and all we're thinking about is what we're doing, right? So I'm doing my adhkar and I'm just thinking of the words that I'm saying. I'm saying alhamdulillah, I'm thinking what it means, all praise to Allah, and I'm just focusing on that. Or some people like to do meditations, and I don't know if anyone has tried a meditation before. I remember the first time I did, I was very skeptical. I was like, what is this? I don't know what it's related to, but you know, just deep breathing and sometimes imagining something calm or like a place that you like, and then just spending a little bit of time with that. And yeah, again, as Muslims, we can be mindful when we're reading Quran. We can be mindful when we're doing adhkar, we should be mindful when we're praying salah, right? Something that we have to work on. Um, and there's a lot of research showing that just being mindful for like 10 minutes every day can help your mental health so much and can help you deal with stress a lot better, make you feel happier. And there's even research actually on mindfulness with adhkar, and found, I think there was a study done in Pakistan where they found that women who had anxiety disorders, so they had disorders, they would do adhkar of saying Ya Allah a certain amount of time every day, and those who did it had a reduction in their anxious symptoms. So their anxiety lessened. So it's a really great way to practice our religion and also be able to help our mental health at the same time. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, which is something I'm passionate about as a therapist, is therapy. So working with a trained professional to help you explore what's going on and help you find tools to cope. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed or really sad, there's a lot of benefit of working with a therapist just to discover kind of what that looks like and what you can do to help yourself feel better. And I'm actually going to transition into that real quick. Because I wanted to take a minute to ask, like, what do you think happens in therapy? As someone who has been in therapy before and who is also a therapist, I have some insight into what it looks like. Well, a lot of insight actually, but I'm curious because before I had any of those experiences, I had some interesting ideas of what therapy was, based mostly on like books and TV, to be honest, because I didn't have that experience. So I'd like you guys to please share your answers to this. But what do you think happens in therapy, or what do you think therapy is, or why do people, who needs to go to therapy? Just any thoughts about therapy and what it looks like. All right, finding the problem, talking to someone about your life and your emotions. Okay, definitely. Okay, coming out. Okay, some people, that does happen in therapy sometimes. Talking through issues. You share how you feel with someone and talk it out. Talking through issues, wonderful. addressing the problem. Awesome. These are great responses. Um, yeah, these are all actually great examples. So therapy is a collaborative process, right? Um, and I love this type. I've seen a few images like this, and I really love it because it kind of explains what happens with therapy, right? You're maybe things are confusing, you don't know what's going on, you don't know why you're feeling a certain way. Your therapist kind of just helps you through the process by helping you kind of unwind some of that, help organize your thoughts, right? Um, a lot of people think, no one mentioned it here today, but a lot of people think therapists give you advice and tell you what to do and help you just tell you like, oh, do this and your problem will be fixed. And that's not what it's like at all. It's really collaborative, which means you work on it together. Yes, not getting confused. Yeah, helping you with any confusion about your feelings, emotions, or maybe you're feeling really angry and you don't know why. But yeah, right, that definitely. So yeah, it's not advice, and it helps you find tools. So I heard this example once and I really liked it. So let's say you want to get really strong, you want to get physically strong, and you go to a gym. You do you just start like using machines randomly without knowing like what machine does what, and you're just using these different strength machines you've never seen before? No, you have to find, you have to do some research and maybe have a personal trainer or someone who works there tell you this is good for your biceps and this is good for your legs and whatever. Just like that, a therapist kind of helps you find the tools to help you deal with those difficult things and to help you get mentally healthy, right? So maybe you're practicing journaling can help you get some of your feelings out without you yelling at your sister, or um, maybe we can learn a new communication style so you can talk to your parents in a way that they understand you. And that's kind of what therapy looks like. And the goal of therapy is to get you out of therapy, which might not make sense. But what it means is that it's not something you have to do forever. It's just when you need a little bit of help, you do therapy, you get some tools, you get some help from a therapist, helps you organize your thoughts. And then basically it's to help you find a way to cope with these things by yourself. So the goal is not that you're in therapy forever. It's just until you find what you need, and then you can come back if you need to. But yeah, I did want to take a few minutes just to talk about therapy, and thank you guys for sharing your ideas about it. But we'll actually kind of wrap up here and just go to Q&A. So I will, after the Q&A, I'll share the resources with you guys that you can use for your research. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that as well. But yeah, I can just answer any questions now, and then we can wrap up the session, inshallah. So there was one question earlier. Let me just find it real quick in the chat. And yeah, feel free. You can also unmute and ask if you have any questions. Hold on. Oh, okay. The question was, why are the suicide cases higher for Muslims? That's a really good question. I think that's probably something they're still trying to understand in the research, but there's a few reasons that I can think of. One, there's a lot of stress, right? So we talked about bullying and how that happens more with Muslim youth, right? There's a study done by the American Psychological Association that found that Muslim kids in schools are more likely to get bullied than other kids. So we have a lot of misconceptions about Islam. I think most of us are really aware of this. People don't really understand it, and sometimes people are really mean about it. And so if you're supposed to be in school, which is like a safe place, and then people are being unkind and calling you names, it's obviously going to affect your mental health, right? We have problems in our families sometimes, things that are difficult to deal with, and we don't have the right tools to deal with them. And so if we have issues and we don't have the tools to deal with them, we're not taught those tools, that can lead us to feeling depressed. And, you know, when it comes to depression, as it progresses, it's the chemicals in your brain change, and it can lead to things like suicide, unfortunately. Um, other things are sometimes people want help, like they want to go to therapy or they want to seek help, but there's a lot of misconceptions in Muslim communities about what mental health work is. People might think, oh no, that stuff is not, you know, it doesn't affect us. Therapy is weird. Only crazy people go to therapy, terrible things like that, right? Some people who might need help and could benefit from the tools, they don't get it. And then they can get worse and then end up becoming suicidal through that process. Because with mental health, if we don't address it, it gets worse and worse, right? So just like physical health, if you have a physical health problem and you just leave it, you don't go to a doctor, it just gets worse over time. And then it changes, there's chemical imbalances in your brain, and it can be very difficult. So that's to answer that question. Do I have any other questions? It can be related to your essay topics or any resources or anything like that. I'll just wait like maybe another minute or so if we have questions. Otherwise, that will be the end of the session, inshallah. but let me see. Okay, I think we don't have any questions, so I will just say thank you guys for participating and for joining me for this session today. Let me quickly share the resources that I had if you want them for your essays. I'll just put them in the chat. And then, yeah, you guys can also reach out to me if you ever have any questions or need help as you're going through your essays, inshallah. So here are, all right, so I just put the FYI's website and also Dr. Rania Awad. So this is like her profile, but you can find some of her research through her profile and also on Instagram and stuff. Yes, you can. I'll also give you guys my email address if you need to contact me. Someone just asked. All right, so that's my email address. I just put it in the chat as well. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions. If you ever need help, maybe like finding Muslim therapists in the area or just any questions, just feel free to reach out, inshallah. And that is it from me. Thank you so much.